Welcome to another episode of the camper build. This will be part 2 of installing this base rail here on the camper. This base rail isn't quite done yet, but I wanted to get everybody caught up on the current state of where everything's at with the camper right now. When I make the changes and modifications that I need to make, those will all be in a later video. But let's just get right to it and finish up this part. All right, so just a couple more things to finish up here on the rail, and then we'll move on to the posts. First, I want to get some measurements of the rail, which is 74 inches, and that will give me a half-inch gap between the camper and the tailgate. And I went over how I made that measurement on the 2x4 model. Width of the camper is 63 inches, so that may vary depending on what kind of truck you have. Thing to note about when I built it is before I had the roof done, I took the cross members, attached it to the base rail so everything was secure and wouldn't move, and then used a square to kind of square everything up before I attached it to the bed of the truck on those channels. So I tapped these 3 holes with a 1/4-inch tap, and I did that on both sides. The idea is to put a bracket from the base rail to the post here, just to kind of give a little bit more support. But I don't think I'm going to need that because I think this is going to be strong enough the way it is. Just to kind of show you for demo here, this is not the bracket, but just to kind of show you what's going on here. But a bracket like this, where you have the base rail here attached to the post. But with this setup here on the back side, it kind of sticks out a little bit. So I'm not sure if I'm going to put this here at all. So it's a little hard to see. This is the back of the truck, back of the cab of the truck. This is the front of the camper. So same thing here, I tapped all 3 holes. This side, I may put the bracket here because it's kind of hidden and out of the way, and it will kind of cover this up. Or I'll probably just put an end cap here or something like that to cover that up. So I talked about this little section here before. I was thinking about making a little end piece that kind of covers all this up and kind of tie it more into the bed of the truck. It's purely cosmetic, so this is probably going to happen way down the road, so I won't get to it for a while. So I was thinking about this rail and wondering if I should have made it just a little bit longer, but I think I'm happy with where it's at. The idea was, so you know, I have this back wall here, so the wall extends below the tailgate, the 2 windows and the door. I'm going to keep this whole solution. The idea is this will come in and out or pop in and out with just a few bolts. And then I was also going to fashion up a kind of like a hatchback window as well with no bottom wall, so it would act more like a regular topper, so you can have a little bit more access to the bed of the truck. And for the hatchback, I was probably going to have something that kind of angles out from the top of the trailer to the end of this rail. And so you'll see that this gap is exposed. I think that's all right because I could probably just put a piece here that would kind of fill that in and just kind of make more of an attachment point. So that's going to be down the road a little ways. I'm just going to go with the 2 window and the door solution before I make a hatch window. I'm still trying to figure out a lot of things to try to make it look good, because with this rounded post here, it just kind of looks like it's just kind of tacked onto the back, but I'll figure something out and build a hatch window for this as well as the 2 windows and the door. So this is just a different angle to kind of show you what I'm talking about. I still have to finish this whole part here. There's going to be a lower door, part of the door here, and then 2 panels here to complete the lower wall. But the idea is this whole section will come out in a few bolts, and then I can just bolt on the hatch window. So the kind of bolted on the sides here, and then that whole hatch would kind of come up and then kind of open up the whole back of the truck, so you could utilize that space to get things in and out of the back of the truck. With this, you're just kind of limited to the door size. So I was going to have those 2 different options depending on how I'm using the truck. If I'm going camping, I'll probably use this, but if I'm just driving around town and need to load things in and out of the truck, then I'll probably put the hatchback window in there. So another thing I thought about this rail is the possibility of building an extension for the camper. So the camper will extend kind of to the end of the tailgate, or just take the tailgate out and build a whole platform. That would really open up the back of the camper and give you a lot more real estate for like a bigger trip or something like that. So I think it would be kind of nice to have that rail extend all the way out here if you were going to build an extension in the back. But I think that if I do an extension, it might just bolt onto the back of the camper. I don't know if that might be a little sketch or not. This depends on how well I can get it secured to the back of the camper. But that's just another thought too, is if you're trying to determine the length of this rail, is if you want an extension on the back here, just kind of give you a little bit more room. So I think this bike tube for a little bit of weather stripping and protection of the camper here is working out really well. I didn't trim this part off here. I did trim the back off, but I want to leave a little piece here because I need to redo everything. So getting this inner tube underneath that rail was a bit of a disaster. The problem was this tube just kept wanting to curl up and I couldn't get it to lay flat. And so right now it's just probably all folded up and twisted and in all sorts of different configurations. I was just in a rush. I had a limited amount of time to get it done before the road trip. So however it laid down on that rail is how it ended up. So I need to redo it. I had a couple ideas on how to do it when I have a little bit more time. I do have to take that whole base rail off eventually to add some modifications, but that's going to be down the road. But I had a couple ideas on how to get this tube to lay flat, and then we'll just go over those real quick. So here's a sample piece of the bottom rail. It's a 1x3, and you can see that that tube, it really doesn't cover a lot of surface area, but I think it'll do the job to kind of give the protection and the weatherproofing that I'm looking for. So the problem was I was trying to figure out every way to get this to lay flat. I was using tape, but the problem is when you tape one end, just a couple inches away, it just ends up and it just curls up again. So then there's the idea of just trying to maybe using some type of contact cement that glued the whole thing down on the whole length of the rail, but I didn't want to do that. But the other idea was maybe using two of these tubes, and so the natural curl of the tube, I don't know if you can see that, but it kind of fits into that rail, into the slots of the rail here, and so it holds it. The natural curl of the tube kind of holds it in place. So I could get it down on the bed rail of the truck, and just use two of these. So I have one on each side here, and share the middle rail. And that would actually give me a lot more protection and a lot more surface area with two tubes. So I might do that. Another idea that I had too is taking a little T-nut here. I've done this before in the past with some other projects where I kind of need to hold something in place on these rails, and I can just force that T-nut in there, and that will hold it. And so that was like another possibility too. But anyways, when I redo the bottom rail, or when I have to take off the bottom rail, I'm going to add just another bike tube on each side, and I think this will work really well. Let me see if I can get that there. Let me give you a little bit better shot here what I'm talking about, where it just kind of sits in that rail, and then when you press down on it, it just kind of falls into place. So the original idea of the camper was to build this frame structure that would attach to the bed of the truck, and then that way I can attach the top part of the camper to that frame, and then also the windows to the frame as well. Then I started looking at truck bed racks to see if there's something currently on the market that I could use to kind of speed up the whole process. But after thinking about it for a little bit, it's like, I don't really need a frame at all. I could just make a post, attach it directly to the rail of the truck here, and then to the camper. And that's kind of what I did. So, these posts just attached to the top part of the camper, but I did do like a bottom rail instead of attaching it to the bed of the truck. And there's a couple of reasons why I kind of went with the bottom rail solution here. So this is the main reason why I went with this bottom rail, You can see the mounting channel for the bed of the truck ends right here, but my rail is all the way over here. So there was no way for me to really attach it to the bed of the truck without having some type of bracket that extended all the way over here. If I extend it all the way over here, it's going to be just the leverage isn't going to work well. So it just makes sense just to make the rail go all the way across. So the other reason why I went with this bottom rail is because when I was working on it in the garage, I needed to attach these posts to something while I worked on it. So instead of like trying to attach these to a 2x4 or something like that, it just made more sense just to go ahead and go with this bottom rail. So like I said, I'm really glad I just went with this solution because it just opens up all those possibilities of the truck bed cover and the truck bed rack and the topper and stuff like that. So I'm glad I went this way. So my brackets here are holding up pretty good. I was kind of surprised they held up as well as they did. 2 long road trips, and we went on some pretty rough roads, and the camper didn't seem to budge at all, which I'm kind of surprised. I'm happy about, but I'm still surprised. I still don't have a lot of confidence in this bracket, but I mean, it did the job. I really had to push down to get this on, so I think that kind of helped with getting this getting the camper tight to the bed of the truck. I am still going to do some different brackets, but I didn't have any time at all to do anything else other than these right here. I only have 4 of them on there, and but we're going to kind of go over some of the other things I'm going to do here shortly to add a little bit more attachment points from the camper to the bed of the truck. So I wanted to go over this bracket in a little bit more detail, just to kind of show you what it's all about. This is a 3-inch piece of flat bar, 1/4 inch thick, and I cut it 4 inches long. I got 2 1/4 inch bolts here, and then a 3/8 bolt down here. And so the 1/4 inch bolts, I put them at looks like 1.5 inches apart, and I think that the distance from center to center is about 2 3/4 inches. I think I made it a little shy, so it would kind of compress a little bit more. This bolt here is attached to one of these T-nuts that I was talking about earlier that you can buy that fit into this channel here. And then for the top, I just used a carriage bolt, and like I said, the bolts that I had before fit perfectly, but now I have to grind off 2 sides of the bolt so it will fit into this channel. So it's a little annoying that I have to grind every single bolt that I want to fit in these channels now, but unless I can find another vendor that sells one with the proper size head on it. So let's see what else. So I'm still trying to figure out if I'm going to use the carriage bolt or like a T-nut with a regular bolt that attaches it. The thing is with the T-nut, it does provide a lot more surface area in here that holds it to the rail, as opposed to like a carriage bolt here, where it has very little surface area to hold it all together. So the benefit with the carriage bolt is it is a lot easier to get these threaded on, and with the T-nut I do have to kind of fish it out to get everything to attach. So it's still just kind of a toss-up for me. I still need to decide what I'm going to do. So it's the same thing with this large carriage bolt that I was going to use in this channel, where it doesn't provide a lot of surface area as opposed to something like where this T-nut does. So it really kind of spreads the load over a larger area. A couple things about these T-nuts that I found online. So I found 2 of them. They're fairly identical, except, I mean, they're both 3/8, but one is a 1/4 inch longer than the other one. If you can kind of see that, so it's about that much longer. And I really wanted to use the big ones because it's just a little bit more surface area, but the hole is just kind of a little loose on the threads. And the shorter one, really nice and really tight. In fact, it's so tight that a couple of them I need to run the tap through to kind of break it open a little bit, because I think there's a couple of burrs in there. But yeah, you definitely want to use these T-nuts. They work great as opposed to this carriage bolt. So you can see I used this carriage bolt with a piece of plywood. Initially, I didn't use it to drive with. I just used it to hold the camper to the bed of the truck when I was just doing some prototyping. But if you do use a carriage bolt like this, make sure you grind a little bit off. So you have the square section here. Make sure you grind off on these two sides and then flip it 90 degrees and then do these two sides as well. Because it turns out that you can get this in here and it fits just real nice, but I did have it where it actually turned on me and I couldn't get it out. So by grinding it off a little bit on 4 sides as opposed to 2 sides, that kind of helped that out. So my idea for the compression bracket that I'm going to build is where I kind of have a plate that I attach to the top rail, take a piece of angle stock that kind of sits underneath there, and so you have 2 points of contact. You have this, you're attaching it to this T-slot and attaching it to this T-slot, and maybe the one T-slot beyond that. So that's fairly secure. Have that there, and then put in another kind of angle piece here, and then just drill a hole straight through all the way down. I need another hand. Drill a hole all the way down here, and then take a bolt and then use that to compress it down to hold it tight against the bed of the truck. With the center post, kind of the same concept here, where this is a 3-inch piece of flat bar, make this a 4-inch piece of flat bar so it overhangs a little bit. Add another little piece of angle underneath it to kind of give a little bit more support, and then put, I can't really see that, but attach a 90 to that channel below. Go ahead and show you. Same concept, add that 90 below, and that way you can have that compression. So it'd be something like that, and then you can have a bolt that goes all the way through, and then use that to compress everything. So I really like the idea of having that on this piece right here. Unfortunately, on the 2 ends, I don't have enough room, so I can only do it on the center post if I do it on the center post. But that's my idea for the compression brackets, in addition to these brackets as well. So another way of attaching the camper to the truck that I talked about before is using the attachment points of the bed of the truck here. There's a D-ring on that side, and then there's this bracket here on this side, and then using a chain link and a turnbuckle. And then on the top here, so you got a little eye bolt. I was going to put another little chain link, and then I was going to put a 3/16 cable, attach it from the top down to the bottom. And so that was what I was originally going to do, but now I'm kind of thinking, for now, just for at least for temporary, is using this chain link and turnbuckle, a little bit of piece of cable, and attaching it to this bottom rail or to this plate here, where I could put like some type of bracket here on this last bolt. So that way I'll have like a little bit more security there, and do this on all 4 sides of the camper. So that's my dilemma right now, is if I want to attach this turnbuckle to this rail, or go ahead and extend it all the way to the top. So this rail right here is even with the inside of the truck, on the inside of the rail of the truck. The problem is, as you get further back in the truck here, it starts tapering in. So the front part of the rail here is a lot wider, so you get this gap, and then as it tapers in, on the back side it's a lot narrower, and you get this overhang. So I said before that, you know, it wasn't really noticeable, but that was on a cloudy day, and I have a gray truck and a black rail. But when you get it in the sun, I mean, it doesn't really show on the camera very well, but it does look like it's a little off. So even though it is, you know, even on the inside of the truck. So that's the only bad part about it. But I mean, still, it's not too bad. But if you look at it, or someone looks at it, they might think that the camper's not on straight. But nothing I can really do about that. So I mean, I could bring this rail out, but then that would kind of probably make things a little bit more unstable. I really want to have it in as close as to that mounting channel on the bed of the truck as I can. Well, that'll do it for another episode of the Camper Build. Like always, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one.